Joining me to kick off today's show is a man that holds a 1-0 record. He's one of the most promising prospects in all of Scotland right now, and honestly in all the UK. That is Reese Lynch. Reese, I appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Hello, how's it going? Are you good?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Absolutely. Well, Reese, I want to get into one thing to start off the show. You obviously finally made your professional debut. I know it's been a couple of weeks now, but to finally have that first pro debut underneath your belt, how does that feel?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Obviously it went exactly how I wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just good to finally get out. I mean, I was waiting about for a little while, trying to get contracts over the line and stuff. And it paid off worthwhile getting to debut on that kind of show and put on the performance that I did.
When you talk about being able to debut on that type of card, obviously it's an incredible card. Back home for yourself too, gets to be a home debut. How special did that make everything?
Yeah, do you know what? Not many people get to have a home debut, especially
Right.
in Scotland, um, with a big promoter like that. So, it was brilliant having that home crowd and getting to do it back at home. I've not boxed at home for a little while, so it's
Right.
good to be back.
When you look at your very first performance, obviously having a second round KO, a win according to plan for yourself, what did you learn? Or was it more so just an opportunity to go out there to kind of get the nerves out, kind of just go have your first fight? Or what did you take away and learn from the fight?
I learned that them little gloves are lethal. um, no, I just learned. I just learned that my 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 style can adapt to pro pretty well.
Right.
Obviously, with some doubts with the way I boxed amateur if I'd move over and transition into the pro as well. But after that performance, I proved that I'll be a pretty good pro.
I was going to ask you about that because when we look at your amateur career, and we're going to get into that in a little bit now. Obviously, that transition is different. The amateur and the pro game is much different, obviously. Do you feel like for you so far, the transition has been quite easy? Was it been still a little bit difficult? Or how would you say the transition has been for yourself?
Um, I wouldn't say it's been easy.
Hmm.
It's a bit different. Like sitting
Right.
down on your shots and keeping my hands up. I mean, as an
Right.
amateur, I used to box with my hands down, so it's that you can't get away with stuff like that as a pro.
Right.
Or you can get away with it to an extent, but not as much as I used to do it. So it's just obviously working on them different things and drilling it constantly in the gym. But I feel it's all coming together. Just at the start, it felt a bit alien.
Sure. I also wanted to ask you because there was an interesting opponent that you talked about too. When you were talking about competitive fights, you did from your last amateur fight to your pro debut was about 13 months for yourself. That had to be
Yeah.
a little bit difficult. So walk us through that. Just going over a year without stepping in front of the ring in a competitive nature. How was that year and a half off for yourself?
So it was pretty. It started to get pretty hard towards the end. I was
Hmm.
pretty optimistic, if you know what I mean, that I'd get
Yeah.
out pretty early. But obviously, Queensberry were busy. They've got all them shows
Hmm.
with out in Saudi,
Right.
um, and obviously they had all that different stuff going on. So getting the contracts over line took its time, um, and then it was just a waiting about. I was getting ready to fight, and then I was like, the dates would keep shifting. So it'd be
Hmm.
like fighting in November, then it'd be like January or February. So it was like I was getting ready for a fight all the time, and it
Okay.
never really came. Um, and then I spoke to my nutritionist and went on a bulk for probably like 6 weeks, and then I got the fight date. So then I went into the camp. So I was kind of keeping myself ready, and then
Okay.
when I finally got that date, I went on a bit of a bulk. I was actually going to box at 61, lightweight,
Okay.
and then I spoke to my nutritionist, and I was like, "Do you think I should box at that or bulk up to 63 and a half?" And he said bulk up
Mhm.
to that. So
Okay.
kind of got that in between, and then it was fight day. So
I want to ask you a couple of different components you just talked about there. One of which is that when you look at in hindsight now that you already had your pro debut, it's underneath your belt, being able to have 13 months to work on yourself from a nutrition standpoint, developing the right proper skills to go make the pro jump, was it almost a blessing in disguise in a sense now that you kind of got a whole year to grow and get ready to be a pro?
yeah, well, I always spoke about that. If I had
Hmm.
went to the Olympics, I would have kind of took that time out that I could have and grow into a pro rather than rushing into it. So it
Right.
probably was that kind of blessing, just having
Hmm.
that time to develop as a pro and work on sinking down on the shots, keeping the hands tight. Do you know what I mean?
You also mentioned that over that standpoint, you were almost trying to get ready for a fight all the way back in November. Obviously, it doesn't end up happening up until May. So, walk us through that aspect. When you were trying to get ready for a fight for many, many months, what is that just on the mental standpoint? How did you go through that component?
Yeah, it's difficult. It was just training away, like getting ready for it. I was always going to keep ticking over anyway, so it
Hmm.
was just that getting the contract over the line. Um, but I knew it was coming. My manager's a good manager. I've got good coaches. My brother
Right.
around it as well. Yeah, he's my coach, so I've got good people around about me. So it was just keeping ready and doing the right things rather than just sitting stagnant.
When you did get the contract and said, okay, you're going to make your debut on that card with Echo Esserman, Josh Taylor in Scotland, what went through your mind?
It was actually like a dream come true.
Hmm.
Just debuting on that bigger show, and then eventually as well, like I didn't know if I was going to get that TV slot.
Right.
So as soon as they announced that, I got told on the way in that I'd
Mm.
be on then, but I was maybe going to be a floater. Um, and then when the lineup got announced and they brought out the poster with me, after obviously the first fight,
Right.
it was like different class.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want people to get to know you better because obviously you're one on your career. You still have a long career to go, but you've already had a great career. I want people to get to know who Reese Lynch is. So if we go all the way back, obviously we've already talked about growing up in Scotland. What was that like?
Yeah, it's good. I love Scotland.
Hmm.
I'm a pretty patriotic guy. Um, and obviously getting to compete for Scotland, stuff like that. I just come from a little village in the middle, smack bang in the middle,
Okay.
Glasgow and Edinburgh. So it's just a little village. You know what I mean? Go to school, just muck about with your mates. There's not much to do here. You need to go to the cities to have much to do.
Right.
But it was an honest upbringing.
At what point in your life did boxing come in to be a part of your life?
So I probably started about well, I played. My brother played football. He was
Okay.
pro youth. So he played with like teams like Chelsea and that when he was like a youth player.
Okay.
Um, Celtic, Rangers, all the big teams. He played with a few of them. So I tried to play football, or soccer, and
Yeah.
I wasn't very good at
Okay.
it. So my brother got me. He would take me on the pads and stuff like that. Like, but just nothing serious, just mucking about. I used to
Sure.
love hitting the pads. My brother's best mate at the time, he used to box as well, so he'd have gloves, put them on, have a mess about, punch him in the face or something like that a few times. And then I eventually went up to a boxing club maybe when I was like 7, 8, 9, something like that. Then I went up to a club in Fauldhouse, kind of left it for a year, and then went up to a club in Spring Hill, which I had most of my amateur career until I
Right.
went to Rob Roy after that. Um, so yeah, I've been in it since I was young. Um,
Okay.
had my first fight when I was like 11.
When did it click that you knew that you could be somebody special, whether that be as a great amateur or even that you could make the pro jump? Because you're a guy, world bronze medalist, the first Scottish to ever win that medal at the event, a Commonwealth gold medalist. Like you are a very accomplished amateur career. When did you realize that, you know what, I can be someone really good at boxing? This could be my life that I'm going to go pursue.
Um, Probably when I first won the Scottish.
Okay.
So I was like 14,
Gotcha.
and I probably didn't know to an extent how good I could be. I just
Mhm.
knew I was decent at it. I could win Scottish titles and stuff like that. But it probably wasn't until I turned junior slash youth, so 15, 16, 17, kind of like that. I
Okay.
started winning international tournaments and stuff. And then I went to a tournament called the Golden Gloves, which
Mhm.
is and I think it's the Golden Gloves, sorry. It's in Serbia.
Mm.
And I boxed, so that I won it 2 years in a row. So it's a youth tournament, so you can only go to it twice. I won it
Okay.
2 years in a row. And I beat some good boys in the first tournament. I beat a Thai lad who, after I beat him, he went and won the Youth Worlds and he won the Youth Olympics. So,
Right.
like, beating that kind of caliber probably certified to me that I could do something.
Another aspect I want to touch up on is when you are obviously going through the boxing amateur ranks, the big decision I know a lot of guys want to do is obviously go to the Olympics. I know you fell just short of that component right there, but when you talk about that, was that always the plan to go pursue the Olympics, or did you ever consider turning pro prior to the 2024 Olympic or the 2022 Olympics?
Um, when I first started, and when I even when I was boxing international and stuff like that, I never really planned on going to the Olympics. I was
Okay.
always kind of fixated on the Commonwealth Games. But after I won the world bronze medal, um, Team GB invited me down, and they basically said that I'd get on the team for winning that medal. So
Mhm.
from then, I kind of thought, why would you throw that opportunity away, if you know what I mean?
Right.
Um, so it was just kind of from then that I decided to kind of pursue that.
Walk us through that time span because you obviously fell just short of it, but you're going through a lot of injuries and obviously ended up losing to Patrick and the Englishman obviously a little bit later. But walk us through that whole time span because there had to be a lot of ups and downs, a lot of difficult moments for yourself. What was that time of life like?
Yeah, it was kind of tough, just working through the injuries and stuff. So I went to the first qualifier in June in
Hmm.
Poland, and before that, at camps and stuff like that. So we were in Italy, and I was getting a bit of back pain, kind of like up my back,
Okay.
and if we thought it was muscle pain, so I was doing stretches and rehab stuff to help it. And then I went to the qualifier. I was boxing with the same injury. I
Hmm.
couldn't really throw my backhand right. I was pawing at it rather than fully extending it and whipping it. I was just
Okay.
kind of pushing it out. Um, Obviously, I lost to a good Bulgarian there as well, and Rizanov, who's a top class fighter anyway. Um,
Hmm.
and then after that, I went on holiday. I had a month off, and then I went back to GB. So I was on holiday. I was still getting this pain. Went back to GB, back to training. So I had been back for about a month, still working like it was muscle pain. And then I went. Actually, one of the American boys was up Emilio Garcia, and I was sparring
Hmm.
him, and I took a pasting off him in the sparring. I couldn't defend. I couldn't throw. I was just getting this. It was like a sharp pain up my back.
Hmm.
So I went, got the physio, and they started doing a bit of work on it. They were like, "We need to get a stretch," and I kind of turned around to them. Said like, "I need to go for a scan," because like there's something not right here.
Right.
So obviously went for a scan, and it came back that I had broken ribs on my
Mm.
back. So it was working through that and trying to get back as quick as I could, but obviously I couldn't do anything.
Right.
Running was hard. Like with that, I couldn't really do it because when I was breathing, it was affecting it.
Right.
So I couldn't actually do anything. It was just kind of like sit and wait. And then both sides went. So after this side had started healing a bit, my right side went as well. So then it
Mm.
was just prolonging it. I had to wait just as long for that as well. So yeah, it was pretty tough. And then just try to get back to it after it, like it was like rushing back. I couldn't really get back to myself quick enough to be able
Hmm.
to compete against these top boys.
When did you feel like you started reaching yourself to get close to 100% again? When did you finally feel like you were healthy again?
So it was probably just after that
Okay.
tournament where I boxed Patrice, the one in America. Just after that, so we went to Thailand. I went as a reserve because obviously Patrice beat me, so
Hmm.
he was going to the qualifying, and I went as a reserve, and that's probably when I started feeling back to myself, which was just
Okay.
a month too late.
Hmm. Obviously, you talk about Patrice. He still is a young, up and coming prospect as well. Is that a rematch you'd like to do in the pro rank someday down the line?
Do you know what? If it came to it, then that's it. It's fine. He's a good lad,
Yeah.
um, nice lad as well. So, but boxing's boxing, and you got to fight who you need to fight.
Absolutely. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but essentially for yourself, then you had the injuries, and I think you ended up missing about 9 months or whatnot in 2024. You returned then in 2024, and then you obviously ended up taking another break that we already talked about, the 13-month break. So you're looking at like 2 whole years of almost being gone, of obviously a lot of ups and downs. To finally get to the end of that time span, what did it feel like to finally say, okay, I can move on now, and we finally overcame all these different obstacles?
Yeah, it was just kind of a relief,
Right.
getting through it all and getting to eventually get back in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, it's kind of different. Like the one between amateur and pro, I was still training away. Um, I was in with my brother, adapting to the professional style.
Right.
Whereas the one before the one with the ribs, I couldn't do anything. So like, that was
Mhm.
probably more relieving to get back in the ring,
Right.
knowing that like this is over now. I can get back to being get back to what I'm used to doing. Um, yeah.
So you signed the Queensberry deal then, and if correct me if I'm wrong here, but the contract should be for 5 fights a year. When
Yeah.
you finally got that contract and you said, "Okay, I'm going to move pro," what about that time in life you say, "You know what? I'm ready to make the pro jump. I want to go and pursue my pro dreams now."
So I kind of made that obviously just after that Thailand tournament. Um, when I was in Thailand, I was talking to some people and stuff like that as well. So
Okay.
I had kind of already decided that that's what I was going to do. When I was going to that tournament.
Now for yourself, we'll talk about the future. You want to know you have your first fight underneath your belt. How quickly can we see back in the ring? Is there an upcoming day that we could see you, or when do you think you're going to get back in the ring?
I'm speaking to my manager now. There's not a exact date yet, but we're
Hmm.
looking at. I spoke to Lee after my fight as well, Lee, and he
Right.
said that it'll be before the end of summer. So we're talking August, September, something like that.
Okay. When you talk about your deal, I kind of already alluded to it though. Your contract should be for 5 fights a year. So for the next year or two, what's your goals and plans? Like, what do you want to accomplish, get done? Is it just kind of getting a lot of fights under your belt, or what do you want to accomplish over the next, year, year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, so it's just obviously getting the fights under the belt,
Right.
um, getting getting used to being in there, maybe doing the rounds with some guys as well. Do you know what I mean? Stepping
Hmm.
up correctly.
Hmm.
I'm still young as well, so there's no rush really.
Right.
But I'd like to be pushing for titles towards the end of the second year, if not
Okay.
a bit earlier than that.
I also want to get into some about Scottish boxing because on that same card, we know Josh Taylor's been the guy. He's been the guy that's kind of representing Scotland for the past long time now. Obviously, after he lost to Echo, we don't know exactly what's going to happen if he wants to move on from boxing or whatever the case may be. But right now, we're looking at the future, and I think Nathaniel Collins is probably the guy right now if we were to look at everybody and what they've accomplished. But you're obviously in the mix as that next guy for the future. You're the most anticipated prospect, all these different things. When you talk about the future of boxing in Scotland, how bright is it?
Yeah, it's very bright.
Hmm.
There's lots of good lads. There's boys that I was on. I went to Commonwealth Games with that are all coming through pro ranks now as well.
Right.
The likes of Sam Hickey, he's signed with Boxer. Tyler Jolly, Lennon Morgan, Matty
Right.
McHale, Stephen Nunes, stuff like that. Loads of guys coming through. And then you've got your likes in Nathaniel. And a lot of the boys that made the had the fights on that show as well. That was great for Scottish boxing because you could you could see all the talent that is coming through.
When you talk about yourself, as I said, you are one of the most anticipated prospects, if not the most anticipated prospect coming out of Scotland right now. Why should fans be excited about you? What are you going to be bringing to boxing to be able to represent Scotland for the next 10, 15 years, maybe even?
Just a skillful style. I feel like I can adapt to most boxers as well. Um, I'm pretty explosive. A lot of people might not think it just from my amateur style, but I can be explosive. Sharp shots, counter puncher. I can box in the front foot. I can box in the back foot. Um, yeah, just exciting.
What does it mean to be able to represent Scotland? As you go out there each and every single time, wear that flag, represent Scotland, what does that mean to you?
That's There's nothing better than going out there and
Hmm.
representing your country. Um, I've always been a proud Scottishman. I always will be.
Right.
So just getting out there and getting to represent your country and win stuff, win titles, win medals, representing your country. There's no better feeling.
In the future now, you're going to have more and more eyes on you. I'm sure there's already a lot of eyes on you, obviously, growing up, but is there any pressure that comes with representing Scotland?
Nah, no, not so much pressure.
Okay.
I'm used to it. I've been there and done it as a amateur. So nah, I just enjoy it. Just having that kind of wearing the flag on your sleeve. Um,
Absolutely.
it's class.
I also want to ask about this because being obviously out here in America, I don't think we understand some of the rivalries out there a little bit more. But obviously, when you talk about the UK as a whole, you guys kind of get classified with Britain with everybody else out there. But within the own country as themselves, is there quite a rivalry between you guys and Britain?
Yeah, as in England.
Yeah.
Yeah. It comes for history, really.
Right.
So there's a bit of rivalry between Scotland and England. And it always gets built up. So if a Scottishman's fighting an Englishman, it always gets built up in the exact same way that it's Scotland
Right.
versus England. But I don't think the boxers look at it like that too much. They'll probably
I was
play on
wondering.
it just for the entertainment, but no, there's not. It's not so much as a big rivalry, but if it comes to sports, then Scotland versus England in football or boxing or whatever, it always gets built up a bit more.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, I could kind of tell. I know whenever the promotion people come out with that, obviously it's all built up around that. But so you're saying for boxers overall, you guys don't really look at the rivalry components more, so just getting the job done then.
Yeah, so it's just you're fighting who you're fighting in front of you. It doesn't matter if
Right.
they're English, doesn't matter if they're American, but you want to beat them, don't you?
Yep.
So it's just one of that. It's just that aspect. The promoters will use it to build it up, but
Hmm.
as a boxer, you're just fighting the man that's in front of you. It doesn't matter where they're from.
I love it, man. Well, Reese, I've got one final question for you. It's the question I'm wrapping up each and every single interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. Obviously, your story is just getting started. You got a long, long journey ahead of you. But when the day does come and you decide to put down the gloves, you move on from boxing, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be for what you accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
Just want to be remembered as obviously a world champion or
Right.
undisputed, something like that. I want to leave a statement on the pro game, be up there with the like Scottish greats like your Josh Taylor and your Ken Buchanans and stuff like that. I just want to be known as a nice guy as well, a good guy. I just want to be
Uh,
a role model to people coming up.
I love that, Reese. Well, Reese, I appreciate you for taking time to come on today, man. I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you in your future, and best luck when you get back in the ring, man.
Thank you, Zach, man. Appreciate that.
Cool. Of course, you always welcome on, Reese. Talk to you later, man. God
See you
bless.
later, man. Thank you.